And I am Stephen Rick with Sight and Vision, exploring what it means to be seen as visually impaired and gaining relative perspective through the personal stories of those who see clearly the need for understanding. Welcome, everyone. Today, our guest is Kat Johnson, a master of social work with a lifetime of career experience and caregiver of family members who are visually impaired. Kat Johnson, welcome and thank you for being here. How should I address you, please?
Well, thank you. Kat would be fine, and it's my pleasure to be here.
Kat, at the start of the show, we heard a song that I requested you bring because it had some relevance to your own personal story with visual impairment. That song is called You Gotta Be by artist Desiree. So let's begin there, please. Why that particular song?
I think the words just really speak to me and inspire me to keep going and stay motivated to keep being the support and strength that I need to be. So, very inspirational for me.
Looking back, did that play a role, or was that like a one-time inspiration for you, or was it a constant source or a continuous source of?
I still love that song, and I still find strength, and it makes me smile when I hear it. So, it's a continual source. It's one of my favorite songs, actually. So,
Music can be timeless,
absolutely,
right?
absolutely.
Looking back, talking about beginnings, where does your story begin?
I'm from the Detroit area originally, and went to school in the suburb of Detroit. Decided I want a life change, so I left the state and lived out of state for 10 years. And then parents started getting older, so decided to come back um, to Michigan, and that was in 2005. Um, Prior to that, while I was out of state, my parent became visually impaired. She had received the diagnosis. So I wasn't there for the initial diagnosis of it all. My dad was taking her to appointments and things. So when I came back in 2005, she'd already been kind of dealing with things a little bit. My dad passed in 2011, and that's when I really became caregiver. And I think as far as visually impaired caregiver was probably 2 years after he passed when she stopped driving. That's when things really um, became critical, I think, as far as helping her adjust and helping me to figure out what to do to help her. And so, yeah, I would think as far as visual impairment, I think it's been about probably 10 or 11 years. And still to this day, we take one day at a time. So,
So we've talked off air, and we should note that both your mother and your brother were born sighted and were sighted well into adulthood and experienced their vision loss later in life, or we can say they experienced their adult
right.
onset vision loss.
Yes.
So your personal story, as you share it here, does not include a loved one who is congenitally blind,
No,
and
that's correct.
you're not disclosing any information they don't already know about or is not public. And if you'd like, we can just focus on the story of with your mother.
Okay.
I know that your brother here, and the connection to Kalamazoo is that he's actually attending classes here at Western Michigan University. But focusing on your mother's story, where it's likely you're spending most of your time, I'm guessing.
Yes.
Uh, After your mother's diagnosis, you said things were really being managed by her and her spouse,
Yes.
and you felt compelled to help after your mother stopped driving. Why? Why then? Why after she stopped driving?
That was such a focus for my mom, that she loved that. That was the one thing that kept her going. And I know that's important for a lot of people, is driving. It represents independence and being able to go places and do whatever you want whenever you want. And so that, I think, is when the diagnosis truly really hit her. I think she, as long as she could drive, she was able to deal with it and cope. When she lost the ability to drive, is when I think it really became a reality. Like, I've got to figure this out. And so I'm glad that I was here that we were able to go through it together and figure it out. I mean, it
Hmm.
was pretty devastating at that point.
Is it safe to say it was like life before driving and life after? I mean, when she couldn't drive any.
Yes,
Okay, okay, just to give our
yes,
audience some kind of perspective or put that in context.
absolutely, yes.
Well, for you, those early days, helping your mother, um, do you remember thinking much about it or seeing, observing things differently or seeing things differently in any way? Did you have any initial worries or fears when you started to help your mom after 2011?
Um, I would say yes. I kind of became, if you will, this helicopter daughter, and constantly worried because I wasn't. We were still in two different locations. We weren't really close, so it was, I was still living about an hour and a half away. So if something did happen, it would be a while for me to get there. I was only getting up there on weekends because I was still working full time, and I still am working full time. So, yes, I think I became more concerned about her, and as a result, kind of enveloped her instead of um, letting her accept it and become, letting her be autonomous and do things that she could do. I just felt like I needed to do things for her.
Was there like a moment when you knew this was going to be big or life changing, or was it sort of like a gradual progression of care?
I think gradual progression. I think gradual progression because she's not one to verbalize. So I had to really look for cues, and that was tricky. It made it even trickier. Um, and it's only been recently that we've been able to increase our communication about things and share feelings, and it's been an amazing journey since that time.
So there was no request, no formal request or verbal request for you to help in the beginning. It wasn't, could you help me?
No,
There was, okay.
no, it was just something I felt I needed to do.
Hmm.
The eldest and the one here, this is my home. I wasn't going to be and this is what I wanted to do. So um, yeah, I wanted to do this. This is something I chose to do.
How much do you think that could have been maybe an unspoken understanding between you that you had a responsibility and you felt compelled to help? And how much was personality? How much was just an general ignorance of how to advocate for herself, do you think? Or was it a combination of those things?
I think a combination. I don't think she was aware that there were resources and things that she could do. I think that it just became a matter of, I need help, please help me, kind of thing. So I think that, yeah, she wasn't filled with resources. I mean, we had low vision. I remember making one little quick low vision visit with somebody that was showing us magnifiers, and that was it. And then we were able to find some other resources, which did help her eventually. But yeah, I think it was a combination of both.
Was there anyone? That's a good point. Was there anyone in the beginning of those early days when you were there to help you, to offer some help or information
Uh,
for like low vision?
Not initially. Actually, she found out through a friend who also had adult onset. So through her circle, her private circle, she found out about a great resource that she ended up getting in contact with, who then helped her with visual aids and things. So if it wasn't for her friend having the same situation, we would have been just kind of swimming around trying to figure out what to do. We weren't really
So that initial support,
right initially.
do you feel like it sort of set you on in the right direction or on the right path, or did it help in some way?
As far her friend, you mean initially, or
Yeah, thank you. In the beginning, you were saying you did actually learn something. It was through her friend,
right?
but that initial information, did that sort of make it easier for you to progress?
Absolutely, absolutely, yeah. Because mom was able to obtain visual aids that helped her be a little more independent and give her a little more confidence. And I think that's a big thing too. Um, Having lost her ability to drive, and now having lost my dad, and just loss upon loss, it's got to attack your confidence levels. So I think the fact that she had some things that she could use to still function and do things on her own started to kind of build the confidence again. So it was a big help, that resource from her friend.
I'm sorry, but your mother lost her husband, and so there were things happening in your life that you just had to address, and these weren't necessarily issues of visual impairment. They were just things related to life. Life was
Right,
happening.
right.
You had that to manage as well as try to provide some kind of care or support for your mother as a visually impaired, newly visually impaired person.
Absolutely.
Do you think that the care, looking now as you are now and looking back from say 2011, do you think the care required of your mother as a visually impaired person would be different from the care she would require as a sighted person?
Oh, absolutely.
And how?
Absolutely. She would be well able to drive for one. Transportation's a big deal. So she could get her own groceries, her own medication, go to her own appointments, um, go see her friends, stay connected. I think that's a big difference. That's a really big difference. With visual impairment, even senior centers. I mean, she's leery about going because she can't see. You can't see to play bingo, and you can't. People don't understand that. I don't think. So that's been really tough. So yeah, it would be very different.
And from your perspective as a caregiver, would it be easier, simpler, more difficult, do you think? Or
Um,
how from your feeling, would it make things easier if she was driving?
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. It would help her self-esteem. Her she would be less frustrated.
But for you as a caregiver, thinking of you as a caregiver, how would that help?
Oh, it would free up my time. I wouldn't my whole focus is her, and making sure that she has what she needs. And an example today, she couldn't see to change the vacuum bag. So even though I had to come home and do, my social work, I had to make sure I made a trip over there and spent time and um, got her situated. So it's little things like this that
Mhm.
I think people don't realize. As a caregiver, I have to be available because this is her world and she needs to do this. And so I have to realize that this is important to her.
In your profession as a social worker, you deal with any combination of things, the administrative, the clinical, sociology, you've got assessment, etc. Do you respond as a professional to the client, or do you respond as a daughter to a parent with your mom in giving care?
Oh, both. I think the line is really blurred sometimes. It's hard to distinguish. And I find myself saying, I'm going to be the daughter now. And when I do, she brings me back to the caregiver. So it's really hard. It's a constant struggle. Um, and I have to be the one to kind of set the boundaries as well. I have to say, okay, I know you need this done. Let's set up a day so that we have, some boundaries there so that I can truly enjoy you as a daughter and mom instead of just a caregiver. So yeah, the lines are very blurred, and it's sometimes hard for me to shut the social worker off and put the, daughter role. It's um, very intertwined, very intertwined, and very difficult at times.
Hmm. It's difficult to separate those. Do you find like you need to separate them,
Yes.
those roles?
Yes, I think to maintain a healthy relationship, I think it's necessary. How to do that? That's the tricky part. That's what I'm still trying to figure out. Um, but I think part of it is setting boundaries as a caregiver. That I know this is important to you. It's important to me to get my things done. Let's see if we can compromise and come up with a certain day where we do things, or So yeah, I think it's. I'm still trying to figure that out.
How do you get help and support? Have you found it easy to find like the support for caregivers of loved ones, in particular people with adult onset visual
No,
impairment?
no. I mean, probably online. I would like to pursue something online. I think that would be very helpful because I'm in a semi-rural area, so there's not a lot of resources to be on site. Um, so I have not done that, pursued that yet, but I think online support group would be helpful.
Hmm.
Um, Otherwise, it's just pretty much family and friends, coworkers. We share a lot that way. Generally speaking, so yeah, I'm pretty much just kind of just winging it here. So it gets hard. There's days when it's hard. Um, so I try to stay with a gratitude attitude because I know that this is important and I need to be doing this. But yeah, it's hard. It's really difficult some days.
Does does that like influence your professional life, like your experience, as a caregiver to your mom?
Abs-
Has that somehow influenced your professional life or your own perception of how you see things?
yes, I think that I'm much more sensitive to those with visual impairment because a lot of the folks I work with are elderly. And so, yeah, I'm much more empathetic and I spend more time and make the connection. And I've seen that that really makes a difference, just acknowledging the fact. I think a lot of times people don't take the time to acknowledge that this is a struggle and please be patient. Um, so, yes, I think it has definitely improved my professional career as far as connecting with those and that have a visual impairment.
Well, as a social worker, I was thinking you're a master of resources, and that gives you an advantage. What about those who are trying to do the same thing? They're providing care to someone who's newly visually impaired. Um, how do we help them if they don't have the skill in providing resources? What can we offer them for as far as advice?
I think my best thing is to try to find low vision rehab, work with, I know in Michigan it's the Bureau of Services for Blind Persons. That's been a big, big help. Um, I would say, boy, I would say start with the eye doctor, but a lot of times they will just refer you to low vision clinic or low vision, rehab or therapy. But
Hmm.
yeah, I would, even your library sometimes can help. It's amazing how much your library can provide and provide resources. Um, Locally, we've got a 211 line, which is like a helpline too. So,
Hmm.
Area Agency on Aging, that's another one that they have wonderful information referral um, folks that can direct you to as well. So, yeah, I think I would try to utilize the resources or help that person within that area, depending on population and whatnot.
So, how does your role as that caregiver, does it continue to evolve and develop? Are you still learning things? Are you traveling in different circles now? Do you have different conversations?
Um, I would say yes. I think I'm growing as a caregiver of a visually impaired adult onset, um, learning to be more patient. I think that's really, really important as a caregiver of someone visually. Be patient, allow autonomy, allow independence.
Mm.
And that's hard because I'm, like I said, I'm a helicopter caregiver, man. I protect. That's my job, and so to step back and say, okay, do this. It's hard sometimes, but it's necessary, So
Is there anything that, like, as an unusual question, is there any good that was born out of your care for your mom's vision loss?
strangely enough, I think our communication has really grown and matured, and we're really becoming closer in ways that we weren't before.
Hmm.
As strange as that may sound, I think our communication is getting much better. Um, and we're learning more about each other, which is pretty amazing at this stage of life. So I'm grateful for that.
How about technology? You talked about low vision, having one low vision consult early on. Has more happened on that front? Have you been learning about any technology? Do you get anything or any kind of a source of or find any source of information?
Oh yeah, there's catalogs of different equipment now that we can order. There's large print games and cards and things for social activity. Um, there, trying to think of what else. Oh, little Echo Dot, Alexa, and stuff. There's that's set up too.
Mhm.
That's been a big help because turning on lights, turning on the TV, turning on radio things that she doesn't have to work buttons and dials. That's been a big, big help. Is using Alexa, and the Echo Dot has been great. And
Yeah, and as a backup for communication, right? I guess
yes,
people say that's just
yes,
another way to communicate if you need
right,
to. It's another way
right, for
to
emergency
call
purposes.
someone.
Yeah, absolutely.
Mhm. So there are moments like where you can actually kind of feel good about yourself and what you're doing there, and feel a sense of achievement, accomplishment, something that's really happening, that's really good
Absolutely.
uh, for you and your mom.
Yes.
Yeah, even though it's, we say vision loss, and so we equate that with something that's very, emotionally sad, but there actually can be something that we can find that actually helps us to grow as people, I guess.
Absolutely.
Like you said, the communication. Well, looking forward, actually, and formal training, whether it's like vocational rehabilitation or living skills, whomever provides that. Do you think that's helpful? Being a caregiver, again, do you think it's helpful for your mother to learn these kinds of skills? Does that relieve you or help you in any way?
Yes. Yes, absolutely. Something simple as removing the rugs and, uh, the um, metal strips between rooms, little things like that, even. It doesn't have to be big stuff, it's little stuff like that.
Hmm.
I won't have to worry about her tripping, if she just takes all the rugs away. Yeah, simple things like that. I mean, it doesn't have to be grand things, but that eases my mind. Absolutely. Or if there's a storm, I know that if her phone dies, she's got, other ways to reach me, and that's really important as well due to technology. So I'm grateful for that.
Hmm. Do you ever anticipate, or do you feel like you have to prepare, for what may happen in the future with your mom and her vision loss?
I think emotionally I can't go there. I mean, it's really hard and sad now, both for my mom and brother because, yeah, I just it's too emotional for me to even put my head around. So I'm just trying to be supportive and take one day at a time
Hmm.
and help both of them have the best quality of life. That's my goal because if I go too much further into the future or think of things, I just get too sad and it makes me um, yeah, feel helpless, like I can't do anything. So I can only look at what's going on today and what can I do to help with quality of life as a caregiver today.
Is that like, okay, now is that a social worker thing? Is that like an elder sister thing? Is that like a human thing, or is there a combination
Combination.
going
I
on
think
there?
it's just human. I think I'm just really sensitive, especially to my family and people I care about and love. So I think that's just a human thing that it's really hard for me because it's something as a caregiver I can't fix. I can't fix it.
Hmm.
And so to think that it's going to get worse or things are going to change or they're going to have to need more care or there's going to be more challenges for them that are going to be really hard. I just can't wrap my head around that. I can't. I just want to take it one day at a time and kind of, meet the challenge as I need to meet the challenge and do the best I can so that I can't look at the big picture. I can't go there. I just truly can't.
Well, that's a good point. Like, what about the loved ones of people who are new to visual impairment? Do you think you and others could benefit from having like actual formal training as well? I mean, okay, so we'll have the visually impaired person, the blind or visually impaired person, complete this training, whether it's living skills or rehabilitation, it's whatever, etc. O&M.
Right.
Would that be a benefit for the loved ones, like in your case as a caregiver? Or would that, not just because you would learn how to help them manage and teach them, but for yourself, could that actually benefit you in that way, in some way, to sort of
Yes.
open, I seem like sort of like reveal to you like what is possible, and sort of alleviate sort of some of those fears and concerns and the sadness and the sorrow, that feeling that you have of some loss and
Yes.
hopelessness for them.
Right. I think that would help because it would show me that there's hope for autonomy and that they can be independent and do these things and um, not just be an end, that this is just a new beginning and we have to, address new challenges. I think the one thing also that really kind of snapped it into clarity for me as far as my mom's visual impairment, she would describe to me what she could see and not see. It didn't really make sense. Like I'm a visual person, I got to see it. I'm fully sighted. Um, and so what helped me was when I saw actual picture of what a person with that particular um, visual impairment sees.
Hmm.
When I could see
Hmm.
that, I think, and I've seen other my other cohorts say, wow, that's really, really something. Like we really were like, wow, what a shocker. Like, because when you hear people say things, you're like, yeah, yeah, but you look fine. There's nothing outwardly showing that there's problems.
Mm-hmm.
But when you actually see the picture of what they see, that I think is really very insightful to start off with that. If you're going to start a training for any kind of caregiver, start out, here's what it is. Here's some of the things that they may possibly see or not see, or, that type of thing. This is the possible range of what we're talking about. I think that really sets the stage of, wow, realization, for the caregiver to say, wow, okay, now I know what's going on, really truly on top of what, the parent or person has said. Now I see, I get what they're, it's hard not to see that when you're fully sighted. You just don't get it. You don't understand it. And so to see that, I think helped me quite a bit,
Hmm.
to see the pictures of actual things they see or not see as far as different.
Those are like the glasses I think you're talking about. Is that
There's
right?
actual
You
pictures.
actually, I
There's
think
just
there's,
actual pictures too.
oh,
You can
okay.
look on, you can just even sometimes Google, what is a person with um, uh, macular degeneration or diabetic retinopathy or all the various things. They'll show you pictures. You can actually see pictures of what they would see. And sometimes some of the doctors, eye doctor offices too, have them list, I've seen them there as well. And I was like, wow, I was really stunned. Like I stood in front of these pictures and like, wow, I really get it now, and it was really um, stark realization for me when I actually could see. You're kind of like looking through the eyes of that person, and that really sets the whole path of caregiving in a different direction. It did for
Mm,
me.
mm-hmm. Brought it home exactly
Right,
what it was
exactly
that they
what
were
she was
seeing.
dealing with. I had no idea
Yeah.
just the severity of it. You just don't think it's that bad when you're not experiencing it. I truly think when you see the changes, or when that helped me quite a bit anyway, to
Hmm.
see that picture of what they see. I think that was big.
What we're doing here and what you've participated in, by the way, thank you. I like the radio show. Do you think talking about issues like this on a talk show like Sight and Vision, do you think it helps move the needle or facilitate understanding?
I would hope so. I think because connections is big. That's the third big thing. Autonomy, being patient, and connection. I think we have to learn how to connect with each other, and whether you're fully sighted and especially visually impaired, the caregivers, those with the visual impairment, we all have to learn. And so I think so. I think learning is talking and sharing and informing each other. I think that's definitely a good start to help moving the needle forward. Absolutely.
Yeah, Kat Johnson, I want to thank you for being here. Was there anything else you wanted to mention or advise or say for your last thoughts?
I just want to thank you for this opportunity to share my journey. It's ongoing, but I hope in some fashion that I've helped someone else to be able to relate. I think that's really big. So I appreciate the opportunity. So thank you.
Appreciate it. Yeah, it's mutual. Thanks for talking with us, Kat, and thanks everyone for being with us here on Sight and Vision. Now that will end our show. Thanks to all our listeners. We'll be back. Until then, what do you see when you can't? I am Stephen Rick, and this has been Sight and Vision.